Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. Tonight we have with us Janet Alexander, and we're super excited to have her here tonight. And my name is April Tribe Juke, and I am broadcasting tonight from Kyle, Texas. So, Janet, where are you broadcasting tonight from?
I'm from the sunny side of Louisville. That is the Indiana side of Greater Louisville, just across the Ohio River from Louisville, in a small city called New Albany.
Wonderful. So you are up kind of in that northernish area. Well,
Now,
compared to where I am in Texas, that's way north.
Okay. Yeah, South Indiana, but
So South Indiana.
North of you.
Yeah, very north of me. And so everyone in between, we welcome you, join on in, and as you start popping up, share where you're from, share with us what brought you here tonight, because we're really excited about what Janet has to bring and offer this evening. Just a little while ago, I was outside with the kids and we were running around doing a tag game. And in the tag game, we call it Save the Bunny. We have a stuffed animal, put it in the center of the grass, and someone who's it is the protective fox and tries to make sure that we can't grab the rabbit. In that race and chase game, it helps me in my movement to be thinking about the plans for whatever is coming up next, which is Janet right here tonight. So that is a really fun little exercise that I do physically as well as mentally to get prepared and ready. It looks like we've got some people here showing up. So let's go ahead and get started. So Janet, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a retired teacher, 30 years of science teaching, married to a biology professor. He's still working right now, trying to figure out how to teach on the computer and in person. We have a lot of animals. We rescue animals, cats and dogs at home. And then I have a horse that I board on near state property with 80 miles of trail. I like to ride, obviously. And I braid horsehair jewelry. This is my horse. I have a girlfriend. I braided this out of his tail. And then my girlfriend painted his head. And then these are earrings that I've made. And this bracelet was inspired by his eyes. Like he has a brown eye with white eyeball and then black eye, eyeliner, skin. And then he has a red face. So getting into creative things now that I'm retired.
Beautiful. I think that creation part of our lives is something that helps to influence our dreams. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree too. So thank you for sharing that with us. And this is going to bring us right to our point tonight, which you can see scrolling underneath is why should you take your dreams so seriously? So Janet, you want to expand on that?
I'm 68, and this took me pretty much my whole lifetime to figure out. My particular story, we all dream and we all have our dream stories, but my particular one is that I was born in a big city with a horse dream, no horse contacts, had some exposure through youth groups to, riding here and there that whet my appetite. When I left home to go to school, I pursued a few more opportunities. And when I started teaching, I bought my first horse. And then I decided I wasn't going to I was a single woman, and it was hard to, to afford a horse on a teacher's salary. I was fortunate I didn't have any loans to pay back. My parents were very generous in that capacity. And gave me the old family car. But I wanted to go to graduate school. So I sold my first horse. I still feel bad about that, abandoning him. And thought I was going to get a degree that I could get out of teaching and make more money, but I ended up back in education. I guess I'm just called to be an educator. I'm the oldest kid in the family. And I guess all that playing school as a youth, rubbed off me. But anyway, I don't even know what was the question? Why should we
Why should you take your dreams so seriously?
Okay, so I gave up at that point. I was offered to have a horse in my 40s. I had gotten married, so I had a second income, but I couldn't accept it. I was furious at God, absolutely furious. My husband's a different religion. I was learning about his religion. I had to speak to his minister. I chose the woman. They had a couple, a man and a woman. I thought it was really cool to have a woman minister because the religion I was brought up in didn't. And I just told her, I said, he's such a horrible, God is just so, horrible. I mean, he's such a tease. He like dangles things in front of you and then you go to grasp it. He whips them away and that's sick. I mean, how could God be sick? And, I went on this whole rampage and it just kind of poured out of me. And then when I stopped, I thought, oh my God, I'm really going to get censored or censured, whatever the word is, for being so irreligious. And she just leaned her head toward me and she said, Janet, do you know who planted that love of horses in your heart and will never give up until you open the door and you let that dream in? And that, I mean, I felt like I was spitting in a volcano. I'm not a volcano, but a twister, a hurricane or tornado. And I I went home. My husband was home. He said, "Yeah, well, we moved. We had just purchased a house in Indiana, and I had gone kicking and screaming from Louisville, and basically, um, he said, we moved here because the real estate was less expensive, so maybe horses are less expensive. So call somebody and see if what's entailed in having a horse and how much it costs, and we'll look at our budget." And then I called this one woman who was also home. And then I said, she was in Louisville, and I said, can you recommend anybody in Indiana? So she gave me a name. I called her. She was home. And she said, whoa, stop. You don't need to buy a horse. I have a retired champion that needs riding. I have so many other horses in training. I can never get around to riding him. And God created, as soon as I accepted my dream, a whole lifetime just like that, horses came in my life in a way I never knew. She was an endurance rider. I didn't know, anything about, much about that. I knew a little, but so then I started, riding for other people and eventually got my current horse, who's 26, and we've been together for, 20 years now, and we're still riding. So it just was a miracle. It was a miracle in my life. So, why take dreams seriously? Because God planted them in you, just like there's crystals in this geode, and you need to let the light in and shine on them, and give it some light exposure. Let's see.
That's a beautiful way to express it, because like those geodes, we don't know the formation of the crystals, the color, what's really going to happen. And when it cracks open, it's such a surprise. I've seen so many incredible different colors. I was blown away because on the outside, it doesn't look that fancy. I have to say, it does not look amazing. But inside, like you're saying, when we put the dream in there and accept it, actually was there the whole time. And when we open it up and God says, finally, welcome to the party. Life.
I believe that I believe that there are vocation, our callings. And my journey toward horses, I thought I was looking for horses the whole time. I was looking for God. And I found God through horses. And so everybody, it's not just a horse book. Whatever your dream is, we're all individuals, and we're all different facets of God to express on this earth. And, God is omnipotent. So there's, lots of facets.
Agreed. There's just so many opportunities. And what I love about your story is that God knows your heart and knows you best. I knew that through that idea of leading you to the horse, it would lead you back to him. He knows that. We never do. We I like what you said. We do kick and scream quite a bit. I have to say, there are some times of some kicking and screaming that have happened over the years. And then just like a toddler, I find myself sitting and then pouting and sometimes crying and then standing back up again and then accepting and moving forward. And it's almost always better. There's definitely more peace. The problems didn't melt away, but my ability to understand his plan with the things and challenges going forward, wow, so much better. That just improves like crazy. And that is amazing. So show us that cover of your book so we can see what we're talking about here, and read to us what the title is.
At Home on a Horse in the Woods, a journey into living your ultimate dream. And by the way, home is heaven as well as a physical place, the woods.
Excellent. I agree that home is found in so many places, because when God is there, we feel that presence, that spirit, that emotion, that connection. And it has many different names depending on what your belief is. But there's a feeling that is so similar that almost as, even though we're so diverse, when we explain the feeling, it has such similarities. It's just a beautiful smile that creeps upon my face to know that whomever I'm speaking with was also touched. And that is incredible. So within your book, how does the story begin?
It begins with my hissy fit with my husband's minister, because that's the most dramatic. And then it goes into the three horses. So on one level, it's a horse story. It's about the three different horses in my life. One is the first one was in Appaloosa, and he had been a pacer on the track, and he was being taught to be a trail horse, but all he wanted to do was crash people into trees and rub them off. So I had a teacher that worked with both of us. Okay, he's the one I sold. And then the one that my friend let me ride was a purebred Arabian, award-winning endurance horse. He was amazing. And then another horse I ended up riding for an endurance rider, was an accident of birth. A fence came down, and an Arab mare, and a Tennessee Walker stallion, very young stallion. They thought too young to breed, but he bred her. And my horse, half Tennessee Walker, half Arab, is just a fantabulous trail horse. So those are the three horses. So you got horses in there. I ride in the woods. You got nature in there. I love nature. God talks through me through nature. So a lot of nature in there. And then, the other part is the spiritual part, how this whole journey was a journey to, to accept my dream and get closer to God. It was a heart thing. Church is more for me like a head thing. Bunch of people, a lot of distraction. But in the woods, on my horse, I'm in the now. It's quiet. There's nothing else I can do. There's no household chores, no yard chores. There's nothing to do. I have to just be there and live in the present. And I have to shut down my mind, which goes a million miles an hour and 4 different paths all the time, and just get so quiet that I can listen and hear that still small voice inside. So that's where I find I feel closest to God, and I feel my best, highest self on my horse in the woods.
Excellent. In that process of finding yourself and listening to the still small voice, what are some of the things that it said to you?
Gosh, you're going to have to read my book.
I love it. I love it. So get that book, because some of these secrets about dreams, they might match yours in ways that you might not even be prepared to understand. And that is the beauty of reading books, finding and discovering, and seeing how other people's dreams, journeys, and discoveries what that does in our own life and how it enriches us. In humanity, our connections are all about story. Whenever we come home from work or do anything throughout the day, someone will say, well, how was your day? Expecting some answers along with becoming the story. And the story starts to unravel and untie. And sometimes in and through those stories, we find our best and our worst self. So I'm sure in that moment when you were debating with the minister and trying to figure things out, it was tough. It's not a great story. It doesn't feel, it feels yucky, but it brought you to a point where you can all of a sudden realize this dream and see now, as you get these still small voice understandings and revelations, if you will, for yourself and for what your world and guidance needs, it might be the very thing that supports and helps someone else along their journey in finding their purpose, in finding their direction, and in finding truly that idea and concept of peace. And that's a beautiful thing. So this is an exciting moment that your book can really offer to someone else.
And you don't have to be on a horse in the woods. When I lived in Louisville, I lived near the beautiful historic graveyard or cemetery where Colonel Sanders is buried. And if you watched Muhammad Ali's funeral, there was a procession to this cemetery, and he's there as well. It was a safe place because it's fenced and it has guards. And I went there for a whole year. This is like before I got married. And I sat at one end of a duck pond, and I did that as often as I could throughout one whole year, 4 seasons. And God talks to me through nature. So my book is a bunch of standalone chapters. So you don't have to read the whole thing, at one time. Some people like to just read a story before they go to bed. So they're standalone, chapters.
That's a really interesting way to bring it about, that you say, here is a place where maybe you only need this one piece to find and discover something so amazing for yourself. And then another time, pick up the book again, find some more that it's going to impact you. And as you go through that experience and share a connection with Janet and God and understanding possibly what your next steps are. That's a beautiful way to write a book because it becomes very individualized for each reader.
I never set out to write a book. I just like to write. And I was always called through my life to write these little a horse story here and there. And then I joined a writers club, and then I presented them and kept writing. And then I had a pile, and then I thought I'll put them to a book. Then I got them published, and selling was the hard part. I just turned it over to some people I knew who were publishers, and they did a great job and great editing and everything. But I was ignorant about the selling. And then I heard about AAE and Carrie, and I decided to learn the whole process, including the selling and promotion and everything. And first thing was you had to say, why did you write the book? I had no clue. Absolutely no clue why I wrote the book, because God told me to write the book. So I wrote the book. So I'm sitting there thinking, well, why did God tell me to write this book? I don't know. So I had to kind of play God to kind of make something up that sounded plausible. And I guess I just figured it was kind of to share with people that, the dreams are to be taken seriously, and to kind of give them a testimonial that it really worked for me. So maybe, they can learn something from my life and not have to waste so much time, learning it from scratch.
I agree that concept of if you can save a few years by learning from other people's stories, it's a beautiful part about why I think many books are written, because we all experience something. And when we put it down, whether it's through journaling or actually publishing a book, there is a point that as we read through that, we might have a same shared experience. We might have something where, wow, I've never heard of this before, and our eyes are completely wide open. There's just such opportunities, and the magic that's involved with any kind of story, that's that's part of the fun, and it's part of the risk of reading through books, because you never know how the impact is going to hit you. So I am really curious to know, of your readers who've gone through your book, what do they have to say? What do they report?
I have, I think, 27 reviews, which is, not a lot for a book that's been out for since 2017, 2019 with AAE. But I always, like, I'm a person that has a few friends rather than a whole bunch of friends because I'm more introverted. All of my reviews are beautifully written. They're beautiful. And it's from people that are not horsey, people that are horsey. Um, Different people get different things out of it, but I am so um, honored to have, those lovely reviews.
Those are great impacts. And when you first read one of those reviews, what did that do inside of yourself?
Validated me. Yeah, it was very validating, and encouraged me to go on and try to sell the book. That it had meaning. It had that people it had worth. So
Right. And I think about, maybe this has happened to you. I don't know. I've only had a few experiences with horses. And one of the horses that I rode while we were on a camping trip, her name was Blondie. And Blondie was very short. I can't remember how many hands high she was, but she was, I would say, the runt of the whole group that we were with. And one time we had to forge a river. And as we were going forward, and it was pretty swift. And Blondie, because of her short stature, we started swimming down the river.
I always wanted to do that. Oh,
Well, I was getting
on my bucket list.
I was getting directions to just unsaddle and hold the horn until she could get her footing again, and then saddle back and get back over. So we did that, and I'll never forget the look Blondie gave me as I was holding on. She kind of looked back at me like there was this trusting part, like, I still got you, you're still there, we'll get there. Might be a
That is so
mile
cool.
downstream, but we'll get there. I didn't
Oh,
panic or worry, and we got out, and I was fine. But she was just this little light in my life during this 5-day camping trip in Yellowstone in the Beckler Forest, and it was an impacting, and I would say a point in my 11-year-old life that I will never forget and well honor. And just that experience and other types of little trail riding that we've done there's something about the beauty and the strength, true strength of a horse, that immediately requires and demands respect. Because if they want to throw you, you're gone.
If they want to kill you, they can kill you.
They can. Right. And yet they have this way about them, and I find it in their eye, right? As their eyes just look,
yeah.
it's just this, it's a sense
Orbs
of
of the
trust or
universe
love.
and
Yeah.
crystal balls. I love them
It's
too.
just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So that's my only experience with horse.
That reminds me of one story in my book. I love to ride at night, and I don't do it much anymore. But I absolutely love it. And there's a story in my book about it, and it reminds you of what you said when you were in the water with the trust, because I couldn't see anything. We were deep in the woods. I mean, hours in the woods, celebrating. It was another teacher and I were celebrating our last day of freedom before school started, and we went for this really long ride, and we ended like probably coming back around 10 o'clock, I think, and pitch black. I couldn't see anything in front of me, but I completely trusted my horse. And that leads me to, I guess, the last thing I really want to say is, can I say it now?
Please
Okay.
do.
God has been more of a head thing for me in my life, and I hope you don't think I'm crazy, but I feel God on my horse. I am elevated above the earth. I'm sitting on a solid foundation. I have power behind me, pushing me forward. I have sensory organs, or the horse has sensory organs. I'm on a creature that can see and hear and smell way better than I do. This horse is powerful, like you said, but yet accepts carrying me, around. And my horse has taken care of me for 20 years. He is so, he's not an affectionate horse. If he were in the pasture, I have to go up with the carrot to get him. And he doesn't, like mush up to me or anything, but he shows his love by taking such good care of me in the woods all these 20 years. So, and it's nonverbal. And our communication is so cool because it's physical a little bit, but it's nonverbal. And that's kind of like with God when you pray. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't know. Sometimes you look for a sign, and I have a story in there when I didn't know whether I was going to retire. I wanted to retire, but I was afraid to. I didn't know what else I'd do. 3 street signs actually told me what to do, like during this time period when I was looking. So I don't know. I just I feel I just feel like I have a companion that trusts and loves me, and I love it, and we're safe together. And we've gone places I never would have gone by myself, and it's just really cool.
I agree. There's just an amazing part where when the creatures that God has created accept us and we accept them, there's a connection there that brings such strength and peace, and it's a place that can be very, really reverent. And so thank you so much, Janet, for sharing that with us. And thank you everybody who came here tonight and listened and participated. This has been a beautiful experience just to remember and know that any way that a story comes through and understands and impacts you, it's there for a reason. And finding and discovering those reasons are some part of what our life is all about. And so taking a part of what Janet has shared, I hope you go and get her book, read through it, and find those pieces that ring true to yourself and share those with other people. Because as you testify of those things, it's truth, it's light, and it's love. Thank you so much, Janet. This has been a beautiful evening, and I am so grateful that you were here. You are welcome. You are welcome. We'll see you guys. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Bye, everybody.